flight crew orders. Black boy to give up. Seat for passenger. Then he makes one call and $1.7 billion. Freezes. YouTube. https://w www.youtube.com/watch v equals HVMUBLS EJO8. Transcript 0010. They thought he was just another passenger in the wrong seat. They looked at his hoodie, his skin color, and his age, and they decided he didn't belong in first class. The flight attendant sneered, the pilot threatened, and a billionaire VIP laughed as they kicked him off the plane. But what none of them knew was that the young man walking down the jet bridge wasn't just a passenger. 0032. He was the architect of the very banking system keeping that airline afloat. He made one phone call just 1 60 later. A $1.7 billion merger froze in midair. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a masterclass in why you never judge a book by its cover. Here's the story of how one act of prejudice cost an airline everything. 0052. The air inside JFK's Terminal 4 was thick with the scent of stale coffee and expensive perfume. It was a friction point of humanity, a place where the exhausted masses collided with the untouchable elite. Caleb Sterling adjusted the noise-canceling headphones over his ears, drowning out the frantic announcements about a gate change for a flight to Des Moines. 1:12. He wasn't going to Des Moines. He was headed to Zurich, and he was doing it in Seat 1A on Horizon Air, the flagship carrier that prided itself on excellence in the skies. Caleb didn't look like the typical occupant of Seat 1A. At 24, he wore a charcoal hoodie that cost more than most suits, though you wouldn't know it without checking the stitching. 0133. His sneakers were limited edition collectibles, scuffed just enough to show he actually wore them. He carried a battered leather messenger bag that held a laptop capable of accessing the deepest sublevels of the global Swift banking exchange. He wasn't famous. He wasn't a rapper or an athlete, the only two categories the gate agents usually assigned to young black men with money. 0156. Caleb was a ghost, a quant, a mathematical savant, who had designed EGIS, the liquidity verification protocol now used by 3 of the world's 5 largest banking conglomerates. He approached the gate for flight HZ880. The boarding process was already a chaotic scrum, but the first-class lane was empty. 0217 boarding pass. The gate, agent said, not looking up. Her name tag read Brenda. She was typing furiously. Caleb held out his phone. The QR code scanned with a polite beep. Brenda looked up. She frowned, her eyes darting from the screen to Caleb, then back to the screen. Zone 1 is for first class and Diamond Medallion members only. 0237. Zone 4 is boarding in 10 minutes. I know Caleb said his voice soft, almost melodic. He was used to this. He had been dealing with this since he made his first million at 19. I'm in 1A. Brenda let out a short, sharp sigh, the kind reserved for unruly children. Sir, please step aside. The system must be glitching. 03021A is reserved for full fare priority. I paid full fare. Caleb said, his patience holding steady. Check the name. Sterling, she typed again. Harder this time. Her eyebrows knitted together. The computer confirmed it. Caleb Sterling, Seat 1A. Status paid. Verified. She couldn't technically stop him. The machine had spoken, but her face soured as if she'd swallowed vinegar. Oh, 3:30. Fine, go ahead, but keep your bag under the seat. The overhead bins in the front are 4. She trailed off, realizing she didn't have a valid end to that sentence. Priority luggage. Understood? Caleb said. He walked down the jet bridge, the cool air of the tunnel hitting his face. He thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. 0352. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was hushed and golden. The first-class cabin on the Horizon Air Dreamliner was a sanctuary. Soft jazz played. Champagne was already being poured. Caleb found Seat 1A, a private pod with a lie-flat bed. He stowed his bag in the overhead bin because he knew the rules better than Brenda did and sat down pulling out a tablet to check the Asian markets before takeoff. "Excuse me." April 19th. The voice was nasal, authoritative, and dripping with entitlement. Caleb looked up. Standing in the aisle was a man who looked like he had been manufactured in a factory that built country club presidents. He was in his 60s, wearing a navy blazer with gold buttons, his face flushed a permanent vascular red. Beside him stood the purser, the head flight attendant, a woman with a tight blonde bun and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. 0444. Her name tag read, Patricia Halloway. "Can I help you?" Caleb asked. "You're in my seat, son," the man said. He didn't look at Caleb. He looked at the flight attendant. "Patricia, why is there a person in my seat?" Patricia leaned in, her perfume overpowering the sterile cabin air. 0505, sir, she said to Caleb, her tone syrupy sweet but laced with steel. "I think there's been a mix-up. This is Mr. Arthur Montgomery. He is a Horizon Air Global Services member and a personal friend of the CEO. Caleb checked his boarding pass again. "I have Seat 1A. I booked it 2 weeks ago." "Yes." "Well," Patricia said, waving a hand dismissively. "We have a situation. Mr. 0531 Montgomery's usual seat in 2A has a malfunctioning recline mechanism. Since he is our most frequent flyer, we need to accommodate him in a functioning suite." "Okay," Caleb said reasonably. "So move him to another open seat." "The cabin is full," Patricia said. "We need you to switch." Switch to where Patricia's smile tightened. "Oh, 553. We have a lovely seat in economy plus row 12. Extra leg room." The audacity hung in the air like smoke. They wanted him to trade a $12,000 pod for a seat near the emergency exit in coach, just because Mr. Montgomery didn't want a broken recliner. "No," Caleb said, turning back to his tablet. The silence that followed was heavy. 0616. The other passengers in first class were watching now, peering over their champagne flutes. "Excuse me," Arthur Montgomery sputtered. "Do you know who I am? I run Montgomery Holdings. I could buy this plane." "Then you should have bought a plane with a working seat in 2A, Caleb said without looking up. Arthur turned a shade of purple that seemed medically dangerous. 0640. Patricia, get the captain. I want this thug off the plane, sir." Patrima snapped, dropping the customer service facade entirely. "You are causing a disturbance. I am giving you a direct order from a flight crew member. Vacate the seat or I will have you removed." Caleb locked his tablet. He looked Patricia Halloway in the eye. 0703. He saw the prejudice burning there, bright and hot. She didn't see a paying customer. She saw a kid in a hoodie who had stolen a spot from her precious VIP. "I haven't raised my voice," Caleb said calmly. "I haven't cursed. I'm sitting in the seat I paid for. If you remove me, you are violating the contract of carriage specifically. Section 4, paragraph 2 regarding involuntary denied boarding." 7:30. "I don't care about the fine print," Patricia hissed. "This is my cabin. You don't fit the profile, now move. You don't fit the profile." There it was, the naked truth. Caleb stood up. He was tall, 6'2", and for a second, Arthur Montgomery took a step back, intimidated. But Caleb didn't lunge. 0756. He simply reached up, opened the bin, and retrieved his bag. "You're kicking me off?" Caleb asked. "Final answer? We are reaccommodating you." Patricia corrected, though her eyes said, "Good riddance. But since you're being difficult, we can't have you on this flight at all. You're a security risk." "A security risk," Caleb repeated. A dry chuckle escaped his lips. 8:20. Okay, Patricia Halloway. Arthur Montgomery. Horizon Air Flight 8. Oh, I've got it. He slung his bag over his shoulder. He looked at Arthur. Enjoy the seat, Artie. Hope it's worth the price. Get off, Arthur sneered. Caleb walked off the plane. He didn't look back. He could feel the eyes of the other passengers burning into his back, some in pity, some in relief that the trouble was gone. 8:48. He walked up the jet bridge, past a confused Brenda at the gate, and found a quiet corner of the terminal near a vending machine. He sat down on his bag. He took a deep breath. He wasn't angry. Anger was inefficient. Anger clouded judgment. Caleb Sterling dealt in cold, hard logic. He took out his phone. He didn't call a lawyer. 0910. He called a private number that bypassed the switchboard of the massive server farm in Northern Virginia, the server farm that hosted the Aegis platform. System status, Caleb said into the phone. System green. Mr. Sterling. A computerized voice responded. Biometric confirmed. Initiate protocol 0 day, Caleb said. 931. Target entity, Horizon Global Group. Authorization code, Sterling Alpha 9. Freezing all liquidity pools tied to their merchant ID. Immediate effect. Warning, the voice replied. This will halt all credit processing and freeze pending asset transfers for the target. Confirm. Caleb looked out the window. He could see Flight 880 pushing back from the gate. 9:57. Arthur Montgomery was probably sipping his champagne right now, laughing about the kid they kicked to the curb. Confirm, clears throat, Caleb said. 17 minutes later, 30,000 feet above the Atlantic. Arthur Montgomery was indeed enjoying his champagne. It's just about standards, Patricia, he was saying, swirling the glass. 10:17. You can't let standards slip. That's how Rome fell. Absolutely, Mr. Montgomery. Patricia beamed. We appreciate your loyalty. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in Chicago, inside the glass-walled headquarters of Horizon Air, a red light began to blink on a dashboard in the IT Operations Center. Then another, then 50. What is that? Asked Mike, the shift supervisor. 1043 payment gateway failure, a junior tech said, tapping furiously. Credit cards are declining at ticket counters in London, Tokyo, and New York. Is it the provider? No, the provider is up. It's us. The authorization bridge is rejecting our merchant ID. It says liquidity verification failed. Mike frowned. That's impossible. 11:08. We have a revolving credit line of $4 billion with the consortium. We don't fail liquidity checks. Suddenly, the main screen on the wall, a massive display tracking the airline's global operations, flashed a critical alert. Alert. Asset transfer blocked. Merger escrow frozen. Mike's face went pale. Horizon Air was in the final hours of acquiring a smaller regional carrier, a deal worth $1.7 billion. 11:38. The money was sitting in a digital escrow account scheduled to transfer that afternoon. If the money didn't move by 5 p.m., the deal would collapse, triggering penalty clauses that would bankrupt the airline for the next 2 quarters. Call the CFO, Mike screamed. Call him now. In a corner office on the 40th floor, Jonathan Hayes, CEO of Horizon Air, was putting on his jacket. 12:03. He was heading to a press conference to announce the acquisition. This was the capstone of his career. His desk phone rang, then his cell phone, then his assistant burst through the door without knocking. Sir, she gasped. The money isn't moving. What do you mean? Jonathan asked, freezing. The bank put a hard stop on the escrow. Alameda 23. They're citing a Protocol 0-day breach. They say our liquidity certification has been revoked by the architect. The architect, what? Architect Jonathan barked, grabbing his phone. "Get the bank on the line." It took 5 minutes of screaming at mid-level bankers before Jonathan got the vice president of institutional risk at the global consortium on the speakerphone. 12:45. "What the hell is going on?" "Bill," Jonathan yelled. "Release the funds, we can't." "Jonathan!" Bill sounded terrified. "The Aegis system flagged your entire company as a high-risk entity. It locked the accounts. It's an automated kill switch designed to prevent money laundering or massive fraud." "We aren't laundering money." 1305, I know that. But Aegis is proprietary. We lease the license. We don't control the kill switch. Only the system architect can override a zero-day flag. Well, find the damn architect and pay him whatever he wants to fix it. There was a pause on the line, a long, uncomfortable silence. "Bill, Jonathan," Bill said slowly. "We looked up the log, 1331. The kill switch was activated manually by the creator of Aegis. Who is it? His name is Caleb Sterling. He operates out of a private firm. We're trying to reach him, but his office says he's unavailable." "Why?" They said he was traveling today. He was supposed to be flying to Zurich for a conference." 1353, Jonathan Hayes felt a cold pit open in his stomach. "On you, Jonathan." He was booked on Horizon Flight 880 out of JFK. Jonathan looked at his watch. Flight 880 had departed 40 minutes ago. "If he's on the plane," Jonathan whispered, "he can't answer the phone. And if he can't answer the phone, the merger dies at 5 p.m., 1418. "There's more," Bill said. "We just got a ping from his device. He's not on the plane. He missed the flight. No, his device is active inside JFK Terminal 4. He checked in, boarded, and then deplaned right before pushback." "Jonathan, why did the architect of the world's banking security system get off your plane 20 minutes before freezing your assets?" Jonathan slammed his hand on the desk. 1447. "Get me the manifest for Flight 88. "Oh. Get me the gate agent. Find out what happened to Caleb Sterling." Back at JFK, Caleb was eating a bag of pretzels. He watched the chaos unfold on the terminal televisions. CNN was already running a banner. "Banking glitch halts Horizon Air transactions worldwide." His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again. 1513. Office of the CEO. He ignored it. He opened his laptop and logged into a secure chat server. He typed one message to his partner in Zurich. "Unavoidable delay. Taking the private jet. Have the meeting pushed to tomorrow morning." He closed the laptop. Suddenly, 2 men in dark suits sprinted past him, earpieces wired in. 1536. They were Horizon Air Security, looking frantic. They were scanning faces. Caleb pulled his hood up slightly. He wasn't hiding. He was just letting them sweat. In Chicago, Jonathan Hayes was staring at a speakerphone, his face gray. He had the JFK station manager on the line. "Tell me," Jonathan said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. 1559. "Tell me exactly why Caleb Sterling is not in seat 1. Sir," the station manager stammered. "I spoke to the gate agent, Brenda, she says. She says there was a double booking. A double booking in first class. That's impossible." "Well, not exactly a double booking. Apparently Mr. Arthur Montgomery had a broken seat in 2A. The purser, Patricia Halloway, made the decision to move Mr. 1629 Montgomery to 1A, and the passenger in 1A refused to move to coach. So Miss Halloway removed him from the flight as a security risk." Jonathan Hayes closed his eyes. He visualized $1.7 billion burning in a bonfire. He visualized his career turning to ash. He visualized Arthur Montgomery, a man he tolerated only because he spent $500,000 a year on corporate travel, sitting in a seat that had just cost the airline 10 times the company's annual profit. 1701. "Let me get this straight," Jonathan whispered. You kicked the man who controls our bank account off the plane to make room for Arthur Montgomery. We didn't know who he was, sir. He was young wearing a hoodie. The crew thought he was nobody. Jonathan finished. They judged him. Sir, the merger deadline is in 3 hours. 17:23. What do we do? Contact the plane, Jonathan commanded. Get Patricia Halloway on the SAT phone. Now, high above the clouds, the cockpit SAT phone chirped. The captain, a veteran named Miller, picked it up. Captain Miller, this is operations. I have the CEO on the line. Priority 1. Miller straightened up. Go ahead, sir. Miller, 1748. Jonathan's voice crackled through the headset. I need you to bring Patricia Halloway to the cockpit immediately. Put her on the headset. Is there a problem, sir? There is a catastrophe, Miller. Get her. 2 minutes later, Patricia entered the cockpit. She was annoyed. She still had to serve the warm nuts to Mr. Montgomery. Yes, Mr. Hayes, she said, putting on her best corporate voice. 1814. Patricia, the CEO said, did you remove a passenger named Caleb Sterling from seat 1A? Patricia rolled her eyes, though no one could see it. Yes, sir. He was uncooperative. He refused to accommodate a global services member. I followed protocol. You idiot, Jonathan said. The word was so cold it frosted the cockpit windows. Patricia froze. Excuse me, 1838. Do you know who that uncooperative passenger is? He is the lead developer of the Aegis banking protocol. Because you insulted him and kicked him off the plane, he has frozen the airline's assets. We cannot buy fuel, we cannot pay staff, and in 2 hours and 40 minutes our merger deal will expire, costing us nearly $2 billion. 1859. Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at the captain, who was staring at her with wide, horrified eyes. I didn't know, she whispered. He was wearing a hoodie. He looked like what Patricia Jonathan demanded. Say it. Silence. Listen to me closely, Jonathan said. We cannot reach him. 1923. He isn't answering our calls, but he might answer yours. You are the one who offended him. You are the one who is going to fix this. How? Patricia squeaked. We are patching a call through to his cell phone from the cockpit. It will show up as the aircraft's number. He might pick up out of curiosity. If he answers, you will apologize. 1943. You will beg. You will do whatever it takes to get him to lift that freeze. If you fail, Patricia, do not bother landing that plane. You'll want to jump out before it hits the ground. The line clicked. The connection was being made. Patricia's hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the back of the pilot's seat. 2003 British. In the terminal, Caleb saw his phone light up. Incoming call. Flight HZ 880. He smiled. A slow, shark-like smile. He slid his finger across the screen. This is Sterling. Mr. Sterling. Patricia's voice was high-pitched, frantic. This is Patricia from the flight. I remember Caleb said coolly, 2031. How is Artie? Is the champagne cold, Mr. Sterling, please? Patricia stammered. We made a terrible mistake. I made a mistake. I am so sorry. Please. We understand there is a situation with the bank. We need you to reverse it. A situation? Caleb asked, feigning ignorance. Oh, you mean the fraud prevention protocol, yeah. 2058. The system tends to lock down when it detects a hostile entity. I am not a hostile entity. You kicked a valid ticket holder off a plane because you didn't like his face. Patricia, that sounds pretty hostile to me. It suggests a corporate culture of instability. My algorithm hates instability. Mr. Sterling, the CEO, is on the line. The merger. I don't care about your merger. 21:19. Caleb cut her off. His voice dropped an octave. You humiliated me. You tried to make me feel small to make your VIP feel big. Now you're feeling small. How does it fit? I'll do anything, Patricia cried. I'll resign. Just please don't destroy the airline. Caleb paused. He looked at the clock. 21:43. He had made his point, but he wasn't done. Put Artie on the phone. What, Mr. Montgomery? Put him on. He's in his seat. Walk back there, Patricia. Hand him the headset. I want to hear him say it. The cockpit of Flight HZ-880 felt like a submarine taking on water. The air was thin, recycled, and suffocating. 22:07. Captain Miller stared at Patricia Halloway, his eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and command. He held the satellite phone receiver out to her like it was a loaded weapon. Do it, Miller said, his voice low, but leaving no room for argument. The CEO is monitoring this line. If you don't get Montgomery on that phone in 60 seconds, Hayes is going to personally see to it that you never work in aviation again. 22:30, not even sweeping the hangar. Patricia took the handset. Her hands, usually so steady when pouring vintage Dom Perignon, were trembling violently. She looked at the door leading back into the first-ass cabin. It was only 30 feet away, but it felt like 30 miles. Mr. Sterling, Patricia whispered into the mouthpiece as she walked, trying to keep her voice from cracking. I'm going. 22:57, I'm going to him now. Don't whisper, Patricia. Caleb's voice came through crystal clear and terrifyingly calm. I want to hear every footstep. I want to hear the ice clinking in his glass. I want the full sensory experience of the seat I paid for. She pushed through the heavy curtain. The first-class cabin was a world apart. 23:19. It smelled of warmed nuts and expensive leather. The lighting was dimmed to a soothing twilight blue. Most passengers had their noise-canceling headphones on, oblivious to the fact that the airline they were flying on was hemorrhaging millions of dollars every minute they stayed in the air. In seat 1, a Caleb's seat, Arthur Montgomery was reclined, eyes closed, a linen napkin tucked into his collar. 23:42. He looked peaceful. He looked like a man who had won. Patricia stood over him, her heart hammered against her ribs. This man was a VIP. He was a global services member. He was untouchable, or at least he had been 10 minutes ago. Now he was the anchor dragging them all to the bottom of the ocean. Mr. 2404 Montgomery, she said softly. Arthur didn't stir. Mr. Montgomery, she said louder this time. He jumped slightly, blinking his eyes open. He looked up at her annoyed. What is it, Patricia? I was just drifting off. Is the meal service starting? No, sir, Patricia said. She held out the phone. You have a call. Arthur frowned, straightening his blazer. 24:29. A call up here. I didn't authorize any calls. Who is it? My broker. Tell him to sell if the yen hits 140. It's not your broker, sir, Patricia said. She felt the eyes of the cabin turning toward them. The man in 1F lowered his newspaper. The woman in 2F pulled off her eye mask. They sensed the tension. It's the gentleman from before. 24:52. The one who gave up his seat. Arthur's face went from annoyance to confusion and then to a deep, ruddy anger. That boy, the one in the hoodie, why on earth would I want to speak to him? Because, Arthur. The voice of Jonathan Hayes, the CEO, suddenly boomed from the phone speaker loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear. Arthur froze. 25:16. He recognized that voice. Everyone in the corporate world recognized the voice of Jonathan Hayes. Jonathan, Arthur stammered. Is that you? Why are you on the line with, "Take the damn phone, Arthur"? Hayes roared. Right now. Arthur grabbed the handset, his face paling. He held it to his ear, looking around the cabin nervously. 2539 Jonathan. I don't understand what is going on. Shut, clears throat. Up, Arthur. Hayes said, You aren't talking to me. You're talking to Mr. Sterling, and you better listen to every word he says because he currently has your net worth in a vice grip. There was a click on the line as the connection switched over. Hello, Artie? Caleb's voice filled Arthur's ear. 2559. Who are you? Arthur hissed, hunching over to hide from the staring passengers. Do you have any idea who you're messing with? I'm Arthur Montgomery. I sit on the board of Montgomery Holdings. Caleb finished for him. Yes, I know. I'm looking at your portfolio right now. It's a nice mix, heavy on industrials, a little light on tech, but very dependent on liquidity. 2626. How do you have that? I built the system that holds it. Artie, Caleb said. You see, you thought you were just kicking a kid out of a seat, but you were actually kicking the keymaster out of the gate, and now the gate is locked. What do you want? Arthur demanded, though his voice was losing its bluster. 2647. Money. I can write you a check, $5,000 for your trouble. Caleb laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. 5,000. Artie, you're not listening. I don't want your money. I have plenty of my own. In fact, I have everyone's money right now. I want you to understand something. Open your banking app. What, you have a smartphone? Pull it out. 2715. Open your First National private client app. Go ahead. I'll wait. Arthur fumbled for his phone with shaking hands. He unlocked it and tapped the gold icon of his banking app. The Face ID swirled and the dashboard loaded. His face went gray. Total balance 0, status frozen. Security hold. It's gone. Arthur whispered. My money. It's gone. 2743. It's not gone, Caleb corrected. It's just accommodated like I was. It's sitting in a digital holding cell waiting for a security review. Those reviews can take months, Artie, sometimes years. Imagine trying to run Montgomery Holdings with zero liquidity for a year. You'll be selling off your yachts for scrap metal by Christmas. 2807. You can't do this, Arthur shouted, forgetting the audience. This is illegal. This is piracy. It's an algorithm, Caleb said simply. It detects high-risk behavior. And frankly, Artie stealing seats from passengers who paid full fare is very high-risk behavior. It suggests a lack of impulse control. What do you want? Arthur begged. He was sweating now. 2832 rivulets running down his temples. Please, I'll do anything. I'll move. I'll go to coach. I'll get off the plane. It's too late for that. Caleb said the plane is in the air. You made your choice. But here is what is going to happen. You are going to apologize. Not a fake corporate apology, a real one. 2857, and you're going to do it loud enough for the whole cabin to hear. Arthur looked around. The entire first-class cabin was watching him. Patricia was standing in the aisle, tears in her eyes, silently pleading with him to comply. Arthur choked. I'm sorry. I can't hear you, Caleb said. I'm sorry, Arthur yelled. I'm sorry I took your seat. I'm sorry I was a pompous ass. 2922, I'm sorry. The silence in the cabin was deafening. A baby cried in row 4, the only sound breaking the tension. Good, Caleb said. Now put Patricia back on. Arthur handed the phone back to the purser like it was made of molten lava. He sank into his seat, covering his face with his hands. He was a broken man. Patricia put the phone to her ear. Mr. 2945 Sterling. I heard him, Caleb said. That was adequate. Will you lift the freeze? Patricia asked, hope rising in her voice. Will you let the merger go through? Not yet, Caleb said. Patricia felt the blood drain from her face, but he apologized. You said I wanted to hear him say it. Caleb interrupted. 30:07. I didn't say that was the price of admission. An apology is just words, Patricia. You guys cost me time. You cost me dignity. And you cost me a flight to Zurich. Now I have to charter a private jet, and that takes effort. What do we do? Patricia cried. The CEO said, if I don't fix this, tell your CEO. Caleb said, his voice hardening. 30:32. That if he wants his $1.7 billion to move, he needs to come down to JFK. Personally, I'm at the TWWA hotel in the lobby lounge. I'll be there for another hour before my charter leaves. If he's not there to shake my hand and make this right in person, the freeze stays until Monday morning. Monday. Patricia gasped. 30:55. The deal expires at 5 p.m. today. Monday will be too late. Then he better hurry, Caleb said. I hear traffic on the Van W Expressway is a nightmare this time of day. The line went dead. Jonathan Hayes was not a man who ran. He was a man who walked purposefully. He was a man who had driver's assistants and vice presidents to do the running for him. 31:18. But today, Jonathan Hayes ran. He sprinted out of the Horizon Air headquarters in Chicago. Ignoring the confused looks of the receptionist, he dove into the back of his waiting black SUV. JFK, he screamed at the driver. Sir, the driver asked, confused. We're in Chicago. Get me to O'Hare. Jonathan corrected his brain misfiring from stress. Get me to the corporate jet now. 31:44. He pulled out his phone and dialed the chief pilot. Pre-flight, the Gulfstream. I'm 5 minutes out. We are flying to New York. Supersonic if you have to. Sir, we can't fly supersonic overland. It's illegal, the pilot replied. I don't care about the FA. Jonathan yelled. I just lost $1.32057 billion because a flight attendant didn't like a hoodie. Get that plane in the air. While Jonathan was burning jet fuel across the Midwest, the situation at Horizon Air was deteriorating from crisis to apocalypse. News of the asset freeze had leaked. It was inevitable. When credit cards start declining across 3 continents, people talk. CNBC broke the story. 32:27 at 2:15 p.m., Horizon Air insolvent banking system. By 2:30 p.m., Horizon stock ticker, HZN, had plummeted 14%. By 2:45 p.m., the board of directors was convening an emergency Zoom call. Jonathan is unreachable, the chairman of the board set his face a grim mask on the screen. He's in the air. He better be fixing this. 32:55. A board member named Susan spat. My contacts at the Fed say this isn't a glitch. This is a targeted enforcement action by Egypt who angered the algorithm. It's not the algorithm. The CFO sighed, loosening his tie. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. It's the architect Caleb Sterling. Apparently we kicked him off a plane this morning, 33:21. We kicked Caleb Sterling off a plane, Susan repeated slowly. The man who wrote the code that protects the entire Western banking infrastructure. Yes. Why, because he was wearing a hoodie and wouldn't give up his seat to Arthur Montgomery. Susan closed her eyes. I move for a vote of no confidence in Jonathan Hayes. 33:42. Effective immediately upon the resolution of this crisis. Seconded, said 3 other voices at once. At JFK, the atmosphere was different. It was calm. Caleb sat in the sunken lounge of the TWWA hotel. It was a beautiful, retro-futuristic space, a monument to the golden age of aviation, an age when passengers were treated like royalty, not cargo. 3407. He had a sparkling water and a plate of sliders. His laptop was open, but he wasn't working. He was watching the stock ticker on the corner of his screen data dent. He took a sip of water. He wasn't doing this for money. He wasn't doing it for spite. Exactly. He was doing it for every kid who had ever been followed around a store by a security guard. 3429. He was doing it for every person who had been told, "You don't belong here," by a glance or a tone of voice. He checked his watch. 3:45 p.m. The merger deadline was 5 p.m. Jonathan Hayes had an hour and 15 minutes. Suddenly, the lounge entrance burst open. It wasn't Jonathan. It was a team of lawyers, 3 of them. 3450. They wore suits that cost more than most cars, and they scanned the room like predators. They spotted Caleb. It wasn't hard. He was the only one in a hoodie sitting center stage looking completely unbothered. They marched over. The lead lawyer, a man with silver hair and a briefcase that looked like it contained nuclear codes, slammed a folder onto the table. "Mr. 3514. Sterling, the lawyer said, "I am lead counsel for Horizon Air. This is a cease and desist order and a notice of intent to sue for tortious interference, cyber terrorism, and corporate sabotage." Caleb didn't flinch. He didn't even look at the folder. He took a bite of a slider. "You have mustard on your tie," Caleb said. The lawyer blinked, looking down. 3535. There was no mustard. "This is not a joke, Mr. Sterling. You are illegally holding funds belonging to a public corporation. If you do not release the hold immediately, we will have the FBI here in 20 minutes. I invite you to call them," Caleb said calmly. "In fact, call the SEC too. I'm sure they'd love to see the audit logs of why the system flagged you." 3600. "The system flagged us because you told it to. I triggered a manual review," Caleb corrected. "Under the terms of the Aegis license which your bank signed, the architect retains the right to freeze any entity that demonstrates, and I quote, erratic, discriminatory, or unstable operational behavior that poses a reputational risk to the banking network." 3622. Caleb leaned forward. "Discrimination is a risk counselor. It suggests bad management. Bad management leads to bankruptcy. I'm just protecting the banks. This is extortion," the lawyer shouted. "No," Caleb said. "This is customer service. I had a bad experience. I'm leaving a review. My review just happens to carry a lot of weight. 3648. The lawyer opened his mouth to scream again, but a hand landed on his shoulder. It was Jonathan Hayes. The CEO looked disheveled. His tie was crooked. He was sweating. He had just run from the tarmac of the private terminal to the hotel lobby. He was out of breath. "Leave us," Jonathan rasped to the lawyers. 3709. "But sir, we have the injunction ready." "I said leave us," Jonathan barked. "Get out, all of you." The lawyers gathered their files and retreated, looking confused and angry. Jonathan Hayes stood there panting. He looked at Caleb Sterling. He saw a young man who looked like he could be an intern at his company, and yet this young man held Jonathan's life in his hands. 3733. Jonathan pulled out a chair and sat down. He didn't sit at the head of the table. He sat opposite Caleb. "Mr. Sterling," Jonathan said, his voice. "I'm Jonathan Hayes." "I know," Caleb said. "We've never met, but I've read your quarterly reports. Strong Q3, weak guidance for Q4, though, Mr. Sterling," Jonathan said, ignoring the business talk. 3801. "I am here to apologize personally, unreservedly. What happened to you on my plane was inexcusable." "It was," Caleb agreed. "Why did it happen?" Jonathan paused. He knew he had to be careful, but he also knew he had to be honest. Caleb Sterling could smell a lie like a shark smells blood. Because we built a culture of elitism, Jonathan admitted, his shoulders slumping. 38-28, because we told our staff that high-status flyers like Arthur Montgomery are gods and everyone else is just revenue. Because we stopped seeing passengers as people. Caleb nodded slowly. That's a good answer. It sounds true. I will fire Patricia Halloway, Jonathan offered. I will ban Arthur Montgomery from the airline. I will give you free flights for life. 38-51. Just please. The merger. It's 4:10 p.m. We have 50 minutes. If that money doesn't move, 4,000 people lose their jobs. Not just me. Baggage handlers, mechanics, ticket agents, people who had nothing to do with what happened to you. Caleb looked at Jonathan. He saw the desperation, but he also saw the manipulation. 39-17. Using the little people as a shield was a classic CEO move. Those 4,000 people, Caleb said. Do they get a bonus if the merger goes through? Well, no, but does Arthur Montgomery get a bonus? Jonathan stayed silent. He does, Caleb answered for him. He's a major shareholder. He stands to make about $12 million today if the deal closes, 39-43. And you stand to make about $30 million in stock options. Caleb closed his laptop. I'm not going to destroy the airline, Jonathan. You're right. The mechanics and the baggage handlers don't deserve that. Jonathan let out a breath that sounded like a sob. Thank you. Oh God, thank you. So you'll release the funds on one condition, Caleb said. Jonathan froze. 40:05. Name it. Anything. You said Arthur Montgomery is a major shareholder and you have stock options. Yes. The condition is this. Caleb set his eyes locking onto Jonathan's. You and Arthur Montgomery will personally donate 50% of your gains from this merger to the United Negro College Fund, and you will sign the pledge right now on a legally binding document before I press enter. 40:32, Jonathan's jaw dropped. 50%. That's $15 million for me, and $6 million for Arthur. That's the price of prejudice, Jonathan Caleb said coldly. It's an expensive tax. Are you willing to pay it, or do you want to explain to your board why you let the whole deal die over your own greed? Jonathan Hayes looked at the clock. 40:57, 4:15 p.m. He looked at Caleb. There was no wavering in the young man's face. Jonathan pulled a pen from his pocket. He grabbed a napkin from the table. Write it down, Jonathan said. I'll sign. The TWWA Hotel Lounge was a study in mid-century silence save for the hum of the espresso machine and the scratching of a MLANC pen on a cocktail napkin. 41:17. Jonathan Hayes' hand shook as he wrote. The ink bled slightly into the soft paper, but the words were legible. I, Jonathan Hayes, CEO of Horizon Air, hereby pledge 50% of all personal capital gains resulting from the Horizon Mercury merger to the United Negro College Fund. I further pledge that Arthur Montgomery, board member and shareholder, will match this contribution. He signed it. 41:43. It was a jagged, angry scroll. He pushed the napkin across the table. There, it's done. Now unfreeze the accounts. Caleb Sterling didn't touch the napkin. He looked at it, then back at Jonathan. You forgot something, Jonathan. What? Jonathan snapped, sweat beading on his forehead. I signed it. That's $15 million of my own money. 42:08. You can't pledge Arthur's money without his consent, Caleb said calmly. It won't hold up in court. You need him to agree verbally. On a recorded line, Jonathan stared at Caleb with a look of pure hatred. He's on the plane over the Atlantic. The plane has Wi-Fi, Caleb said. Call him on WhatsApp or use the SAT phone again. 42, 31. I don't care how you do it, but get him on the line. Jonathan looked at his watch. 4:35 p.m., 25 minutes. He pulled out his phone. His fingers fumbled as he dialed the operations center. Patch me through to flight 88. Oh, again. Emergency priority. A minute later, the connection crackled. This is Miller, the captain said, sounding exhausted. 4302. Miller, get Arthur Montgomery back on the headset. Jonathan barked. Sir Miller hesitated. Mr. Montgomery is indisposed. He's been drinking heavily since the last call. He's shouting at the window shade. I don't care if he's dancing on the wing, Jonathan screamed. Put the phone to his ear. There was a muffled scuffle on the other end. 4323. Then Arthur's slurred voice came through. Jonathan, is that you? I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue the airline. I'm going to sue the clouds. Arthur, shut up and listen to me. Jonathan yelled, his voice echoing in the quiet lounge. We have 20 minutes before the merger dies. If it dies, the stock goes to zero. 4345. You lose everything. Your house in the Hamptons, your vineyard, everything. I don't care. Arthur blubbered. That boy, he humiliated me. That boy is sitting across from me, Jonathan said, looking Caleb in the eye. And he has a deal. He will release the funds, but there is a price. What price? Half Jonathan said. 4410. Half of the upside. You have to donate 50% of your profit from this deal to charity, specifically to a charity that supports inner-city education. Half! Arthur screeched. That's $6 million. No, absolutely not. I earned that money. I sat on those board meetings. Arthur. Jonathan cut him off. 4438. If you don't say yes, you lose 100%. Do the math, you senile old bat. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Say yes. There was a long silence on the line. The static of the satellite connection hissed. Caleb tapped his finger on the table. Tick-tock. Fine. Arthur wailed. Fine. Take it. Take it all. Just fix it. He agrees, Jonathan said, lowering the phone. 4506. He looked defeated. He agrees. Caleb nodded. He pulled his laptop toward him. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He simply opened a terminal window. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Green text cascaded down the black screen is greater than authenticating user. C. Sterling is greater than access level. 4531 architect is greater than reviewing protocol. Zero-day flag is greater than target. Horizon Global Group is greater than status. Pending removal. Do it? Jonathan whispered. Please. Caleb hit enter. Is greater than override confirmed. Liquidity restored. At 4:48 p.m., 12 minutes before the deadline, the red lights on the dashboards in Chicago turned green. 45. 59. The payment gateways reopened. The escrow account unlocked. EMA 7 billion surged through the fiber optic cables, moving from the consortium banks to the escrow and then to the target company. Jonathan's phone buzzed with a text from his CFO. Funds cleared. Deal is done. Jonathan slumped in his chair. 4622. He let out a breath that seemed to deflate his entire body. He had saved the company. He had saved the merger, but he had lost $15 million. And he had lost something even more valuable, his invincibility. He looked up at Caleb. Are we done? We're done, Caleb said. He closed his laptop and stood up. He picked up his battered leather bag. 46. You should probably frame that napkin, Jonathan. It's the most expensive piece of paper you'll ever own. Jonathan didn't answer. He just stared at the napkin. The ink already drying, a testament to the day the world changed for Horizon Air. Caleb turned to walk away. Wait, Jonathan called out. Caleb stopped. "Who are you?" Jonathan asked, genuinely baffled. 4710. "Really? You're 24. You wear a hoodie. You fly commercial. Why do you have this much power?" Caleb looked back, his expression unreadable. "I don't have power, Jonathan. I just have the keys." "The problem with people like you and Arthur is that you think owning the building means you don't need to respect the locksmith." 4732. He walked out of the lounge, blending into the crowd of travelers, just another face in the terminal. The aftermath of the JFK incident, as it came to be known in business schools, was not immediate. It was a slow, grinding tectonic shift that crushed everything in its path. The merger went through. Horizon Air became the largest carrier in the Western Hemisphere. 4754. For a week, the stock soared. Jonathan Hayes was hailed as a genius for closing the deal under technical difficulties. But secrets in the digital age have a half-life of 0. 2 weeks later, a leaked audio recording surfaced. It was the cockpit voice recorder data from Flight 880. Someone in the maintenance crew had downloaded it. 4815. Someone who was tired of their pension being cut while the executives drank champagne. The recording was uploaded to TikTok. It went viral in an hour. The world heard Arthur Montgomery screaming, "I don't care if he paid full fare. Get him off." The world heard Patricia Holloway, "You don't fit the profile." The world heard Jonathan Hayes. 4837. "If you don't get Montgomery on that phone, I'll see to it that you never work in aviation again." And then the world heard Caleb Sterling, calm, measured, the voice of absolute, terrifying competence. The backlash was nuclear. The fall of Arthur Montgomery. Arthur didn't lose his money immediately. He lost his status. First, the board of Montgomery Holdings met emergency on a Sunday night. 4904. They voted 1-1 to remove Arthur as chairman. The 1 was Arthur's own vote. "You are a liability, Arthur," the new chairwoman told him. "We cannot have a racist tyrant as the face of a consumer brand." Stripped of his title, Arthur retreated to his estate in Greenwich. But the internet never forgets. Activists camped outside his driveway. 4926. His country club membership was revoked. Violation of community standards. His wife of 40 years filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable public humiliation. And then came the lawsuit from the United Negro College Fund. When Arthur tried to back out of the verbal pledge, claiming he was under duress, the recording proved otherwise. 4946. The judge, a stern woman who had flown Horizon Air many times, ruled that the contract was binding. Arthur wrote a check for $6.2 million. It was nearly half his liquid assets. He spent his remaining years in a small condo in Florida, complaining to anyone who would listen about the boy in the hoodie. No one listened. 5007. The exile of Patricia Holloway. Patricia didn't get fired. That would have been too easy. Instead, Horizon Air restructured her role. She was removed from flight duty permanently. She was reassigned to the baggage claim dispute desk in Newark. Every day from 900 p.m. to 500 a.m., Patricia stood behind a plexiglass counter dealing with angry passengers whose luggage had been lost, crushed, or stolen. She was screamed at. 34. She was insulted. She was told she was incompetent. One night, a young black man approached her counter. He was polite. He was calm. He had lost his guitar case. "I'm sorry," he said gently when she couldn't find it in the system. "It's okay. Take your time." Patricia looked at him. She saw the kindness in his eyes, and she burst into tears. 5057. She cried for the guitar. She cried for her career. She cried because she finally understood in the harsh fluorescent light of the baggage hall that kindness was a currency she had bankrupted long ago. The redemption of the architect. Caleb Sterling never gave an interview. He never went on Good Morning America, 5116. He refused the book deal. He didn't need the fame. Aegis became the gold standard for ethical banking. The Sterling Clause, a line of code that automatically froze assets of companies flagged for discriminatory practices, became industry standard. Banks didn't adopt it because they were moral. They adopted it because they were terrified of being the next Horizon Air. 5138, Caleb continued to fly, but he made one change. He bought a small regional airline. He renamed it Equity Air. There was no first class on Equity Air. Every seat had the same legroom. Every passenger got the same meal. The price was based on when you booked, not who you knew. One afternoon, Caleb was walking through the terminal at JFK, heading to a gate for an Equity Air flight to London, 5207. He was wearing a new hoodie, navy blue this time. He passed a newsstand. The cover of Fortune magazine featured a picture of Jonathan Hayes looking haggarded and aged. The headline read, "The CEO Who Paid the Ultimate Price." Jonathan had kept his job for 6 months after the incident, but the stress had eaten him alive. The board eventually replaced him. 5228. He was now consulting a euphemism for being unemployed and rich, but irrelevant. Caleb stopped. He looked at the magazine. Then he looked at the gate agent. It was Brenda, the same Brenda who had tried to stop him from boarding Flight 88. "Oh." She looked up. She recognized him instantly. Her face went pale. "Mr. Sterling?" She stammered. 52. "I'm so sorry." About last time, Caleb smiled. It wasn't a shark smile this time, it was genuine. "It's okay, Brenda," he said. "We're all just learning the code." He handed her his boarding pass. She scanned it. "Group 1, she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Have a great flight." "Thanks," Caleb said. 5314. He walked down the jet bridge. He found his seat. It wasn't 1A. It was 12F, a window seat. He sat down, put on one on his headphones, and looked out at the tarmac. He saw a Horizon Air jet taxiing nearby. It looked heavy, lumbering a dinosaur from another era. His phone buzzed. A notification from his bank. Donation received $15 million from Jonathan Hayes. 5345 donation received $6,200,000 from Arthur Montgomery. Caleb swiped the notification away. He opened his music app and pressed play. As the plane lifted off, banking sharply over the Atlantic, Caleb Sterling closed his aisle. He didn't need champagne. He didn't need a lie-flat bed. He had the only thing that really mattered. He had the controls. 5405. In the end, the system worked. Not the banking system or the airline system, but the cosmic one. Horizon. Air learned that in a hyper-connected, clears throat world, prejudice isn't just a moral failing, it's a financial liability. They judged a book by its cover, only to find out that the book was the manual for their own survival. 5425 Caleb Sterling didn't just freeze a merger. He froze a worldview that believed dignity was a luxury good reserved for the elite. He proved that the most powerful person in the room isn't always the one shouting. Sometimes it's the one quietly typing on a laptop waiting for the right moment to press enter. 5442. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We drop new stories of karma, justice, and revenge every single week, and you don't want to miss the next one. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that you never, ever judge someone by how they look. 5502. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.